Delta variant spreads like chickenpox. Here it is, folks.
Good evening once again. I'm Chris Chancing in for Brian Williams, day 191 of the Biden administration. And we begin tonight with breaking news from the Washington Post. Critical new information about the Delta variant of the coronavirus. The paper has obtained an internal CDC document which contains urgent new warnings about the virus. The Post reports, quote, the Delta variant of the coronavirus appears to cause more severe illness than earlier variants and spreads as easily as chickenpox, according to the internal federal health document that also argues officials must acknowledge the war has changed. The Post goes on to report, quote, it cites a combination of recently obtained, still unpublished data from outbreak investigations and outside studies showing that vaccinated individuals infected with Delta may be able to transmit the virus as easily as those who are unvaccinated. Vaccinated people infected with Delta have measurable viral loads similar to those who are unvaccinated and infected with the variant. This afternoon, President Biden took a much more aggressive stance in face of the escalating COVID crisis driven by that Delta variant and continued resistance to vaccines.
This is American tragedy. People are dying and will die who don't have to die. If you're out there unvaccinated, you don't have to die.
The administration is now confronted with the reality that its work to stop the spread of COVID could potentially face a major setback. Today, the president acknowledged that threat and took the first step toward imposing tough new regulations that will affect millions.
The president...
It's time to impose requirements on key groups. Every federal government employee will be asked to attest to their vaccination status. Anyone who does not attest or is not vaccinated will be required to mask no matter where they work, test 1 or 2 times a week. If in fact you're unvaccinated, you present a problem to yourself, to your family.
Biden's telling me I don't need to die. Fuck you, Biden. I will die a patriot before I listen to you, you baby eater. You understand me? I'm a goddamn American. I'm not a communist Chinese. I will die like a goddamn American from COVID-19, which is a biological weapon that China made to destroy America. But it also simultaneously doesn't need a vaccine because it's both deadly because China wants to destroy us, but also not deadly. Even though my parents died of COVID-19. You understand me? None of this makes sense. It doesn't matter. I'm angry all the fucking time. Fox News keeps feeding me a healthy diet of hatred, and I no longer can form thoughts of my own. It doesn't matter. I'm just an angry fucking hog.
And to those with whom you work.
Tonight, the Pentagon says it will also impose the same rules on all military and civilian personnel. So, Dr. Gupta, the Post story of the Washington Post also reports tonight about the CDC document they obtained, quoting here, the document strikes an urgent note, revealing the agency knows it must revamp its public messaging to emphasize vaccination as the best defense against a variant so contagious that it acts almost like a different novel virus, leaping from target to target more swiftly than Ebola or the common cold. That got my attention, Dr. Gupta. What do you make of this new information? How does it change things?
Good evening, Chris. Frankly, I don't think the war has changed at all. And this is an indictment of ineffective, confusing messaging from the very top.
Did she say Sanjay Gupta? Because that's not Sanjay Gupta. Did I mishear her? I was looking to see if or did she just say Dr. Gupta? Oh, she just said, okay. I was like, is she fucking this up right now? Wait, hold on.
That got my attention, Dr. Gupta. What do you make of this new information? Note, revealing the agency knows it must revamp its public messaging to emphasize vaccination as the best defense against a variant so contagious that it acts almost like a different novel virus, leaping from target to target more swiftly than Ebola or the common cold. That got my attention, Dr. Gupta. What do you make of this
I was just said Dr. Gupta, my bad.
new information? How does it change things?
Good evening, Chris. Frankly, I don't think the war has changed at all. And this is an indictment of ineffective, confusing messaging from the very top. Let's call it what it is. And I think your team actually has an image that I shared many months ago that my pulmonary colleagues and I have been trying to share and disseminate out. This is on the left for all your viewers out there. Those are healthy lungs. On the right, those are lungs ravaged by COVID that my colleagues and I care for in the ICU. That's acute respiratory distress syndrome. That's what the vaccine prevents. That message was never clearly communicated through images, through authentic messengers from the very beginning. So now people are saying, well, what's changed? Frankly, if you actually look at the CDC data that was presented in slide format, it's pretty darn clear that the vaccines, and they were looking at two-dose Pfizer, Chris, two-dose Pfizer was protective against hospitalization in Israel and Canada and in England. Even against symptomatic illness, we saw 87 to 88% protection. But against hospitalization, seeing somebody like me, you were nearly 100% protected. So I don't think anything has changed. What we are now dealing with is an indictment of ineffective, confusing messaging,
So
making people think that now we're dealing with.
I want to make sure I understand, because my takeaway from this Washington Post article was that even though I'm fully vaccinated, I think everybody on this panel is fully vaccinated, we can still be carrying the variant, and it is so much easier for it to transfer, to transmit. And even though, again, and we've talked about this, and I think the messaging has been clear, if you're vaccinated and you do get this Delta variant, you're going to have a much more mild case. The idea of transmission and getting it at all sounds scary. So is this information, though, not new?
So that information is new. And so this notion of, but we have to think about this in context. I think, Chris, we have to take a step back and say, the CDC is likening this to chickenpox, for example. Well, it turns out even if you're fully vaccinated against chickenpox, you can transmit the virus. No vaccine's perfect against transmission. So what does this mean? This just basically means that, yes, there's a potential for transmission of the Delta variant to others.
My parents would kick me out of the house if I get vaccinated. Dude, that's psychotic, dude. That's like borderline child abuse, bro. I swear to God.
Variant is more dangerous because
what the fuck is wrong with people, man? Fucking, I don't know. I don't know how to help you, underage chatters. But if you're 18, dude, fucking lie to them. Lie to them. Go get your vaccine and lie to them. You already do that to go out and fucking sneak out and hang out with your friends and smoke weed and shit. Just lie to them.
Hopefully I don't
Who cares?
And get banned.
I don't even know. There might be instances where like you're allowed to consent to get this vaccine without your parental consent. You're allowed to like go out and get the vaccine even if you're underage. Maybe like there's medical exceptions usually for like abortions and stuff, so you might be able to do that as well.
We think that's different from, say, the Alpha variant. It looks like the Delta variant is maybe 50% more transmissible, even if you're fully vaccinated. But Chris, ultimately, this just adds greater urgency to the notion of getting vaccinated. The Delta variant in and of itself to those who are fully vaccinated is not harmful. So immediate FDA approval and really broad consideration of a mandate, those are the things we need to be talking about in addition to better messaging.
And President Biden, Shannon, has been talking about this, but I thought today was marked by an even more urgent tone. Is concern in the White House rising day by day over this new variant? And how do folks there feel about their messaging on the virus?
Well, their urgency has certainly ticked up. I will say last week and maybe a little bit into the week prior, I talked to people within the administration, people who were...
Listen, I'm going to keep it 100 for you guys, okay? Like, if you have conservative parents, obviously don't lie to them about stuff that will, stuff that you're doing that's like bad, even though I can't stop you from doing so. I mean, I fucking lied to my parents all the goddamn time when I was growing up. In most instances, your parents care about you and think they're doing what's right. But this is one area where, like, they're absolutely not. If they're stopping you from getting the vaccine, they literally are just, they are doing something that's harmful for you. Okay? They are hurting you. They are putting you in jeopardy. If you want the safety of getting the vaccine, then I absolutely believe that you can and should lie to them. In a lot of mass vaccination sites, they don't really even take your information down. I think they might, but I just like I don't know what to say. I'm in a Republican household, but my parents made sure that we got hey son, here's a car without any seatbelts or airbags. Conservative anti-vax parents. Yeah, literally, like, it's so stupid. Yeah. Lie on job interviews and lie to your anti-vax parents is good advice, I think. Can you clear up the chat that your mother's name isn't Anne? 90% of chat thinks your mom's name or something. Thank you. Yeah, my mother's name is not Anne. Anne just means mom in Turkish.
Close to the administration, advise the administration, and they raised a lot of these issues like requiring masks for certain groups, vaccine mandates for some federal employees.
Has buffed 10 months.
But I would say about a week ago, 10 days ago at this time, nobody was thinking it was going to happen as quickly as it did and as widespread as it has. There was talk about vaccine mandates for VA employees, for members of the military, maybe TSA screeners, not for the entire federal workforce to have to either be vaccinated or submit to really regular testing. You know, there was talk about requiring masks maybe for certain groups, maybe increasing the urge to nudge people to wear masks more, not this sort of about face on mask recommendations and saying that people who live in large swaths of this country, even if they're vaccinated, to be putting their masks back on. So I've noticed internally and people close to this White House a real shift in messaging over the past few weeks, which I think speaks to the growing urgency.
Yeah, there's a vaccine.org shows minor consent laws by state. There's resources on here as well. If you're like if you're underage and your parents are not letting you fucking get a vaccine, you can go to vaccine.org, look up your state, figure out what the fuck's going on there. It's kind of sad. No, it's not. It's just kind of America, dude. That's just how it is. Because in this fucking country, unfortunately, like the incredible scientific feat, the incredible scientific achievement of like mRNA vaccines are considered bad. That getting vaccinated against a fucking disease that can kill you is seen as like a political issue, a culture war issue. It's so idiotic. Americans love being proud about their ignorance. They think it's like fucking a point of freedom. And the dumber we get, the dumber our fucking representatives are, or the more they feed into that ignorance, the worse we become as a society, the more dangerous it becomes. There's nothing I can say about it outside of just like, dude, protect your own. Protect your own damn self. People unironically think it's fucking freedom to just like be an idiot. Like, it's my freedom, brother. So these are the slides that came out. So first, this is Ashish Jha. He's a researcher and an advocate for the. He's a researcher at, I guess, Brown. Works on Brown Public Health. So let's talk about what's inside the slides of the Delta variant. First of all, it is really, really contagious. Like more contagious than Ebola, Spanish flu, and probably chickenpox. Really contagious. So Delta variant is way more transmissible than a lot of these like super contagious fucking diseases, right? So that's terrifying. But fear not, 87% efficacy for the fucking 2-shot mRNA vaccines. So ultimately, if you got double shots, if you got both jabs, like you're still pretty protected against the worst symptoms, like the pneumonia-like symptoms that you get, like temporary lung damage. You still might lose your loss of taste and smell, which sucks. And we don't know what the long-term complications are of getting COVID. Even if you are vaccinated, we certainly don't know what the long-term complications are with getting COVID if you're not vaccinated. Okay, but you're in a really, really good situation. Are you cucked if you're J&J? No. No. It's still better a lot better than not being incredibly better than not being vaccinated, and it's still better than being fucking protected with a flu shot. So but that doesn't mean 88% protection from symptomatic disease, but 96% protection from hospitalization. There's nothing to worry about as far as like getting vaccinated. It's the best thing that you can do. Okay. Second, it appears to cause more serious disease if you get infected. I've been worried this is the case, but certainly not sure. This data here is suggestive, but not definitive. So reasonable to say Delta could be more severe. In Singapore, they found that you needed a higher odds of oxygen requirement, ICU admission, or death, and pneumonia. In Scotland, there's a higher odd of hospitalization. In Canada, there were higher odds of hospitalization and death. But the vaccines are working. Okay, 80 to 90% of effectiveness against symptomatic infection and 90 to 95% effectiveness against severe disease. So 90 to 95% chance against hospitalization and like the more severe long-term side effects of COVID is remarkable. I cannot repeat this. Like, as far as medicine goes, as far as vaccinations goes, this is insane. This is unheard of, okay? People think like, why not 100%? Like, no. Like I said, the flu vaccine, the influenza flu vaccine that's seasonal, that changes every fucking year with the different variants and mutations, is oftentimes only 30 to 40% effective, okay? Nothing is 100%, ever. So, there's that. That's what the data from other countries say, but what about data from our country? Glad you asked. In our country, why the fuck does this go up for Canada? Canada Delta. Okay. Right now, about 35,000 Americans that are vaccinated were having breakthrough infections weekly. Sound high? Actually, probably 300K Americans are having infections weekly. And given that 50% of Americans are vaccinated, that's a rough vaccine effectiveness of around 88%. I mean, that's like... It's kind of shit data for the most part, but you know, he's just kind of throwing it out there. Greater risk of disease, hospitalization, and death among unvaccinated versus vaccinated people. Here are the national estimates. There is an 8-fold reduction in disease incidence if you are fucking vaccinated, fully vaccinated. There is a 25-fold reduction in hospitalizations. 25-fold. You are 25 times more likely to be fucking hospitalized. There's a 25-fold reduction in incidences of death. It is remarkably unlikely. Okay? It is incredibly unlikely that you will die or get hospitalized if you are fully vaccinated when you get COVID. Okay? And the data... The larger analysis shows this data as well. It corresponds to the fucking data. There's a reason why in the aftermath of the COVID vaccinations, despite the fact that, you know, the economy was reopening and we were like lowering the mask mandates and stuff like that, cases were not increasing until recently when the Delta variant started fucking whipping through the country, starting specifically in not places like New York for the first time, unlike the previous COVID iterations, but this time in southern states like Florida and Louisiana and Missouri, where there's an incredibly low number of adults in comparison to the rest of the country with double vaxxed patients. Protection against severe infection is well above 90%, so the vaccines are working fine. But what about this whole breakthrough infections and spreadability? Can vaccinated folks with breakthrough spread? Yes. CDC is now citing several studies showing vaccinated folks with breakthrough infections having similar viral loads to unvaccinated folks with infections. Now, the original data and the opinion before the Delta variant was that if you are vaccinated, there's a very high likelihood that you're not going to have a viral load. You're not going to be able to develop a viral load large enough to be able to fucking spread it to others. Okay? Because it like eliminates the severe symptoms and it eliminates most of the fucking symptoms in general. And it eliminates... The idea was that the speculation was that it is eliminating the most severe aspects of COVID to a degree where your transmission and spreading COVID as a carrier, as a pre-symptomatic carrier, or as a carrier in general, if you are double vaxxed, was lower. But with the Delta variant, it's higher than the regular COVID, the other variants of COVID. These are viral loads, not actual evidence of a similar transmission, but a reasonable assumption. Now, the assumption is Delta variant vaccine breakthrough cases may be as transmissible as unvaccinated cases. So if you get the Delta variant, you're going to have to fucking quarantine. You can't be like, oh, I'm vaccinated, I'll still go outside. Okay? You can't do that. The CDC has modeling that says universal masking is critically important, but they assume no other behavior change like some folks avoiding large gatherings. But you know what their model also said would work great? Near universal vaccinations. So yes, the Delta variant is bad. Our vaccines are good, incredibly good. Breakthrough infections happen. Sometimes they may spread to others. But if enough people get the shot, the pandemic does come to an end. I live in Alberta, and they're getting rid of basically all COVID mandates in August, despite no evidence this is safe to do. This includes making people quarantine. I mean, America's never